guys, today's notes are on graphing sine and cosine, but we'll be doing this in radians. We'll be talking about everything today except for a phase shift, so we'll cover that tomorrow in level 2. So the first thing you need to remind yourself is that we have c plus a sine b theta minus d, and you want to now think about theta in radians. Now, quick review. C is your midline. A is your amplitude. B is the number of cycles. And we used to say in 360, but we're going to say in 2 pi now. And if B is factored out, then D is your phase shift. Okay. So the one thing we need to know now about period is that it used to be 360 degrees divided by B. But now we're going to be talking about radians, so we're going to be using 2 pi divided by B. And B needs to be positive always. So far I've only given you positive B's, but just remember that it's the absolute value. Okay. Distance between critical points is still the period divided by 4. At this point, you could also think of it as period times 1 over 4. Okay, and today you guys will see why I use this now. Dividing by 4 and multiplying by 1 over 4 is the exact same thing. And we'll see sometimes we'll use divide by 4, other times multiplying by a fraction is more helpful. So let's begin with example 1 and example 2. So the sinusoidal axis is the number not attached to sine cosine. So this will be y equals 2. We'll put our midline in at 2. Our amplitude is 3. Okay, remember it's the absolute value of A, so that negative doesn't matter. So it's just 3 right now. So from 2, I'm going to go up 3. Which is a max of 5. Okay. But let's label this as A equals 3, and then we're going to go down 3. Okay. Just so that we have that for later. I just want to make sure, a lot of you guys are using formulas where you add and subtract and you figure out exactly where things go numerically, but I think we're still having a little bit trouble like labeling amplitude on graphs. So we'll put this in here. Okay, number of cycles in 360. Oh, sorry guys, I meant to say 2 pi for every single one, and I did not change it. So can we change each of these? Okay, sorry about that. So number of cycles in 2 pi is still the B value. And here's A, this is C, so that's 4. Okay. And our phase shift, there is none. Or you could say 0. Okay. We don't have to put degrees now because 0 is the same as 0 degrees, but 0 radians doesn't have any symbol next to it. Now our period is 2 pi divided by B, which is 4. Please reduce that, pi over 2. And our distance between critical points, do you see how here, like we don't want to take this fraction and then divide it by 4 again? So I'm going to take distance between critical points, which is period times 1 over 4. So I have a distance between critical points of pi over 8. Okay, so let's mark off every pi over 8. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here. Let's see. I'll write it down here just because it's a little bit tricky. I'm still going to mark it here. 4, that's my first period. 1, 2, 3, but then I can go backwards 1. Okay. So this will be pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, which is pi over 4, 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8 reduces to pi over 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Okay, this chapter, since it's our next one, we are going to be asked to please label all of your x-axes for 2 cycles. Okay, so this is 1 pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8, 5 pi over 8, 6 and 8 reduces to 3 pi over 4, and then 7 pi over 8, and this will be 0 and negative pi over 8. Okay, so let's do a quick review now. We have our critical points. Our phase shift is where our x value begins. Okay, so we're going to have 0, and we're going to count by pi over 8. And that's for our x-axis. So this will be pi over 8, pi over 4, which we already did here, right? We have 3 pi over 8, and then pi over 2. Since we're starting at a negative cosine, cosine usually starts at max or min, but because it's negative, we start at the minimum value. Okay, so we're going to start down here. And go back to our midline, up to the top, back to the midline, down to the bottom. Okay, a lot of you guys did really bad on the test where I asked you to label the phase shifts or you forgot to label them. So this chapter, it might be helpful to just do your first graph, like the non-shifted one, in a solid line, and then maybe do the rest of it in a dotted line. If you make it super clear where your first period is, you don't need to mark the phase shift anymore. You see that? Okay, so you decide, do you want to like mark the phase shift with like a solid line or a dotted line up and down and then label that as your phase shift, or do you want to just solid line your first period after the phase shift and then put in the rest of the period? Okay, so this one we are starting at 0 down at the bottom, which is negative 1. We're going back to our midline of 2, up to 5, back to 2, and down to negative 1. Okay, we'll do another one. Everything is exactly the same. The only difference is that now your b value is a radian. So let's see, sinusoidal axis. We have y equals, that's our seat, 6, a, and b. Let's do capital letters. So amplitude is 5. If I'm starting at 6 and going up 5 more, I need to go to 11, which I don't have on here. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'll mark this one as 11. Okay. And then we'll go down 5 here. So from 6 down 5 is down to 1. So that's 1. Okay. Let's draw our dotted lines here. Okay, so I'm just marking this in so it's very clear. Number of cycles in 2 pi, because we're doing everything in radians, is pi over 4. I just want you guys to be sure what pi over 4 really means. So let's take a look here. Pi over 4, if you guys use your calculator, second that caret up, divided by 4, that is 0.78, which is approximately 0.79, I should say, right? Because it's 785. So there's less than 1 cycle in 2 pi. Okay. 2 pi is 6.28, right? 3.14 is pi, so it's like 6 point something. Okay, let's see, our phase shift. We have none still, so we're starting at 0. Our period is 2 pi over b. Instead of dividing by pi over 4, we're going to do, we're going to do 2 pi times 4 over pi. The pi's cancel out, so we're left with 8. Our distance between critical points is to take our period and divide it by 4, which means our distance between critical points is 2. Okay. So we're going to count by 2's. 2, 4, 6, 8, and we'll go 10, 12, 14, 16. I think that's enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. Perfect. Okay, so we have a negative sign. Sine starts at midline. If it's a negative, it then goes down from the midline. Okay, so I'm going to start at 6, and then I'm going to count by 2's. And I'm going to go down to our minimum, back to midline. Sorry about that. 6. Up to our max, and back to our midline. So this one will be, let's see, starting here, here, and this is our first period, so I'm going to use a solid line. Shows that there was no phase shift. And then what I'll do now is draw in our dashed line. Okay. Perfect. One last example, and then you guys have 3 problems to try on your own. Okay, so this one's a fraction for b, but there is no pi. So I just want to show you guys like all the different ways that things can show up. So let's go, midline is 1, c, a is 3, so 1 plus 3 is 4, 1 minus 3 is -2. So here's my midline. 2, 3, 4, this is 4. And then our minimum is at -2. Okay. Number of cycles in 2 pi. Sorry, I really needed to change those. And this will be 1 over 4, right? That's b. So there will be a quarter of a cycle in 2 pi, which means that this is going to be pretty stretched out. Our phase shift is none still. And our period is 2 pi times 4 over 1, okay, which is 8 pi. Distance between critical points, 8 pi divided by 4 is 2 pi. So I'm going to count by 2 pi's. 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi is 1 period. Now 1, 2, 3, and I'll do one more backwards. Okay, please label all of these. Notice it's not taking me very long. It's just something we do. And our critical point will start at 0 for our x because there is no phase shift, and we're going to count by 2 pi's. So 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, and 8 pi should match your period here. And if this is cosine, positive cosine starts at the maximum. So our maximum value is 4. It's going to go down to 1 for the midline, all the way down to -2, back to the midline, and up to the max. Be careful when you have a midline that's very close to 0, that you don't accidentally use 0 as your midline. Okay? So let's see, that's my first period, and then I'll put in some extra points. Here we go. And we're done. Okay, you have 3 problems to try on your own now.